Marcus Thompson stared at the computer screen in his big office. The numbers on the screen were not good. Very bad, in fact. His company, Data Flow Solutions, was losing money every month. Lots of money. He rubbed his tired eyes and looked around, his fancy office on the 40th floor. Everything looked perfect here. Expensive furniture, big windows with a great view of the city, and awards on the wall. But something was very wrong with his company. Marcus was 45 years old. He had started this tech company 15 years ago with just $5,000 and a big dream. Back then, he worked day and night in a small garage. He wrote computer programs, talked to customers, and even cleaned the office himself. Those were hard times, but they were also good times. Everyone worked together like a family. Everyone cared about the company's success. Now, Data Flow Solutions had 500 employees and made millions of dollars every year. At least it used to make millions. For the past year, things had been going downhill fast. Very fast. Marcus picked up a thick folder from his desk. It was full of angry letters from customers. He opened the first one and read it again. Your staff was rude to me on the phone. They hung up when I asked for help. I am taking my business somewhere else. The next letter was even worse. Your employees delivered our project 3 months late. When we complained, they blamed us for not explaining what we wanted. This is terrible service. Every day, Marcus got more letters like these. Customers were leaving. Big customers who paid millions of dollars were canceling their contracts. Just last week, Global Industries had ended their 5-year deal. They said Dataflow's employees were unprofessional and lazy. This contract was worth $8 million. Marcus opened another file on his computer. This one showed employee surveys. The results made him feel sick. Only 20% of his workers said they were happy at work. Most employees said their managers were mean to them. Many complained about bullying and unfair treatment. Some wrote comments, like management doesn't care about us and this place makes me feel worthless. The phone on Marcus's desk rang. It was his secretary, Linda. Mr. Thompson, the monthly management meeting starts in 10 minutes, she said in a sweet voice. Thank you, Linda, Marcus replied. He gathered his papers and walked to the conference room. All his top managers were there. Jennifer Walsh from marketing was talking loudly about a new advertising campaign. Robert Chen from IT was checking his phone instead of listening. David Park from sales was eating a sandwich and dropping crumbs on the table. Sarah Mitchell from accounting looked bored and kept checking her watch. Good morning, everyone, Marcus said as he sat down. Let's talk about our problems. We're losing customers every week. Employee satisfaction is terrible. What's going on? Jennifer Walsh spoke first. The problem isn't us, Marcus. It's the employees. They're lazy and don't want to work hard. Maybe we need to fire some people and hire better ones, Robert Chen agreed. Yeah, the staff complains too much. When I was young, people were grateful to have jobs. These employees expect everything to be perfect for them. David Park wiped his mouth and said, Our sales team is doing great. If other departments worked as hard as us, we wouldn't have problems. Maybe the issue is that we're too nice to the workers. Sarah Mitchell nodded. I think we should cut salaries and make people work longer hours. That will make them more serious about their jobs. Marcus listened to all this and felt confused. These managers were talking about employees like they were enemies, not team members. But what about the customer complaints? He asked. People say our staff is rude and unhelpful. Customers complain about everything these days, Jennifer said with a laugh. They expect too much for too little money. We can't make everyone happy. The meeting continued for an hour. Every manager blamed someone else for the company's problems. Nobody took responsibility. Nobody had real solutions. They all acted like everything was fine and the problems were not their fault. After the meeting, Marcus walked back to his office feeling more confused than before. He had hired these managers because they seemed smart and experienced. But listening to them today, he wondered if they really understood what was happening in the company. That evening, Marcus decided to walk around the office building. Most employees had gone home, but some were still working late. He wanted to see how things really looked when managers weren't watching. As he walked through the empty hallways, Marcus saw the cleaning crew working quietly. There was an older man mopping the floors, a young woman emptying trash cans and another man cleaning windows. They worked carefully and didn't make noise. Marcus realized he had never really noticed these people before, even though they worked in his building every night. The older man looked up and saw Marcus. "Good evening, sir," he said politely. "Sorry if we're in your way. We'll be done soon." "No problem," Marcus replied. "Take your time. You're doing a good job." The man smiled. "Thank you, sir. We try our best to keep everything clean for you office workers." This simple conversation made Marcus think. Here was a person who took pride in his work, even though he was just cleaning floors. He was polite and respectful. When was the last time Marcus had heard such courtesy from his own managers? Marcus continued walking and found himself in the break room. Someone had left a mess on the tables. Empty coffee cups, food wrappers, and papers were scattered everywhere. There was a sign on the wall that said, "Clean up after yourself," but clearly nobody was following this rule. He walked past the cubicles where regular employees worked during the day. Many desks were messy and disorganized. But Marcus also noticed personal photos, small plants, and motivational quotes on some desks. These people were trying to make their workspace feel like home. They cared about their jobs at least a little bit. As Marcus rode the elevator back to his office, he had a strange thought. What if the problem wasn't lazy employees or demanding customers? What if the problem was that he, as the CEO, had no idea what was really happening in his own company? Sitting in his fancy office, surrounded by expensive furniture and beautiful views, Marcus was completely separated from the people who actually did the work. His managers told him what they thought he wanted to hear. His reports and surveys only showed numbers, not the real human experience of working at Dataflow Solutions. Marcus looked out his window at the city lights below. Somewhere down there were 500 people who worked for his company. They went home, every night, to their families. Some probably complained about their jobs over dinner. Others might worry about getting fired. A few might even be proud to work for Dataflow Solutions. But Marcus didn't know any of this. He was like a king in a castle, making decisions about people he never met and problems he never saw firsthand. That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the polite cleaning man and the messy break room. He thought about angry customer letters and unhappy employee surveys. Most of all, he thought about his managers who seemed to care more about blaming others than solving problems. By morning, Marcus had made a decision that would change everything. If he wanted to save his company, he needed to see it through completely different eyes. He needed to become invisible and watch how people really behaved when they thought nobody important was looking. The idea was crazy, but Marcus was desperate. His company was dying and traditional solutions weren't working. It was time to try something nobody would expect. Marcus Thompson woke up early the next morning with a crazy plan in his head. He was going to become someone completely different, someone invisible, someone who could see the real truth about his company. He sat at his kitchen table and wrote down everything he needed to do. First, he needed a new identity. Second, he needed to look completely different. Third, he needed to find a way to get hired as a janitor in his own building without anyone recognizing him. Marcus had never done anything like this before. As a CEO, he was used to giving orders and having people do things for him. Now he had to become a completely different person. It was scary but also exciting. The first step was changing how he looked. Marcus drove to a part of town where nobody knew him. He went to a small barber shop run by an old man named Tony. "I want to look completely different," Marcus told him. "Change everything." Tony looked at Marcus's expensive suit and shiny shoes. "You running away from someone?" he asked with a smile. "Something like that," Marcus replied. Tony cut Marcus's hair much shorter and gave him a rough, uneven style. Then he used hair dye to change the color from black to brown. "Now you need to grow some facial hair," Tony said. "Come back in 2 weeks." Marcus spent the next 2 weeks growing a beard. Every morning he looked in the mirror and saw a stranger looking back at him. His wife, Carol, was confused by the changes. "Why are you growing a beard? And what happened to your hair?" she asked. "I'm trying something new for work," Marcus said. He couldn't tell her the real plan. She would think he was crazy. While his beard grew, Marcus worked on creating a new identity. He had a friend who knew about fake documents. This friend owed Marcus a big favor from years ago. "I need identification papers for someone named Mike Torres," Marcus explained. "Just for a few weeks, nothing illegal." His friend was suspicious but agreed to help. "This better not get me in trouble, Marcus. You're asking for something very risky." "I promise it's for a good reason," Marcus said. A week later, Marcus had a driver's license, social security card, and work permit, all with the name Mike Torres. He also had a fake address in a poor part of the city. Looking at these documents felt strange. He was no longer Marcus Thompson, successful CEO. He was Mike Torres, unemployed janitor looking for work. Next, Marcus had to learn how to act like a different person. He studied how janitors dressed and talked. He watched YouTube videos about cleaning techniques. He practiced walking differently, slower, with his head down, like someone who was tired from hard work. Marcus bought old, worn-out clothes from a thrift store, faded jeans with holes in them, t-shirts that had seen better days, cheap sneakers that looked like they had walked many miles, a baseball cap to hide his face. When he put on these clothes, he felt like a completely different person. The hardest part was learning to talk differently. Marcus was used to speaking with confidence and authority. He gave speeches to hundreds of people. He talked to important clients and investors. Now he had to sound like someone with little education and no power. He practiced in front of the mirror. "Yes, sir." "No, sir." "Whatever you say, sir." The words felt strange in his mouth. He had to speak more quietly, less clearly. He had to sound grateful for any job, even a bad one. Marcus also had to learn about cleaning. He bought books about janitorial work and watched training videos online. He learned about different types of floor cleaners, how to use industrial vacuum cleaners, and the proper way to clean bathrooms. It was more complicated than he had expected. After 3 weeks of preparation, Marcus was ready to apply for the job. He dressed in his Mike Torres clothes and drove to his own office building in an old, beat-up car he had bought with cash. He parked far from the main entrance where his employees usually parked their cars. The building looked different from this angle. Instead of walking through the fancy front lobby like he did every day as CEO, Marcus went to a side entrance where service workers entered. There was no fancy decoration here, just a plain door with a sign that said staff entrance. Marcus walked to the Human Resources office on the second floor. He had never been to this part of the building before. The hallways were narrow and the lighting was dim. There were no expensive paintings on the walls like there were on the executive floors. The HR office was small and crowded. Several people were waiting in plastic chairs, filling out job applications. Marcus sat down and picked up an application form. His hands were shaking as he wrote Mike Torres at the top. The questions were simple but felt difficult to answer. Previous work experience? Marcus wrote down fake jobs at fake companies. Why do you want this job? He wrote, I need work to support my family. Every lie made him feel uncomfortable, but he had to continue. After waiting for an hour, a woman called his name. Mike Torres? She was about 30 years old, wearing a cheap business suit. Her name tag said Janet Miller, HR assistant. Marcus realized he had never met this person before, even though she worked for his company. Janet looked at his application quickly. So you want to work as a janitor? She asked without looking up. Yes, ma'am, Marcus replied in his practiced voice. I'm a hard worker. I really need this job. Have you done cleaning work before? Janet asked. Yes, ma'am. I cleaned offices and stores for many years, Marcus lied. Janet asked a few more simple questions. She didn't seem very interested in his answers. After 5 minutes, she said, The job pays $12 per hour. You work from 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. Monday through Friday. Can you start tonight? Marcus was shocked. That was it? No background check? No reference calls? No drug test? As CEO, he had always assumed his company had strict hiring procedures. Apparently not for janitors. Yes, ma'am. I can start tonight, Marcus said. Janet handed him some papers. Fill these out and bring them back at 5:30 p.m. Someone will give you a uniform and show you what to do. Marcus left the building feeling amazed and worried. It had been so easy to get hired. Anyone could walk in and get a job cleaning his offices. What if criminals or dangerous people applied? What if someone wanted to steal company secrets? The security was much weaker than he had ever imagined. That evening, Marcus returned to the building as Mike Torres. He wore his old clothes and kept his head down. A supervisor named Rick met him at the staff entrance. Rick was a big man with tattoos on his arms. He looked tired and unfriendly. "You the new guy?" Rick asked. "Yes, sir. Mike Torres," Marcus replied. Rick handed him a gray uniform, shirt and a name tag. "Put this on. You'll clean floors 15 through 25 tonight. Follow me." As they walked through the building, Rick explained the basic rules. Don't touch anything on people's desks. Don't go into offices when people are working late. Empty all trash. Cans and recycling bins. Mop all hard floors, vacuum all carpets. Clean all bathrooms. Any questions? Marcus shook his head. "No, sir." Rick showed him where the cleaning supplies were kept. There was a small room in the basement filled with mops, vacuum cleaners, toilet paper, and bottles of cleaning chemicals. Everything looked old and cheap. Marcus realized his company was spending very little money on cleaning supplies, even though cleanliness was important for the business image. "You work alone," Rick said. "I'll check on you a few times during the night. Don't cause any trouble and you'll do fine here." Rick left Marcus alone with a cart full of cleaning supplies. As Marcus pushed the cart toward the elevator, he felt nervous and excited. In a few minutes, he would be walking through his own company as a completely invisible person. His employees would see him, but they wouldn't really see him. He would be just another janitor. The elevator doors opened and Marcus stepped inside. As the elevator rose toward the 15th floor, he realized there was no going back now. Mike Torres was about to meet the real data flow solutions. Marcus pushed his cleaning cart onto the 15th floor and immediately felt like he had entered a different world. This was his own company, his own building, but everything looked different from down here. As Mike Torres the janitor, he was completely invisible. The first thing Marcus noticed was how employees treated him. People walked past him like he wasn't even there. When he said good evening to a woman from accounting, she didn't even look at him. She was talking on her phone and stepped around his cart without acknowledging his existence. A man in an expensive suit nearly knocked over Marcus's mop bucket. Instead of apologizing, the man looked annoyed and said, "Watch where you put that thing." Marcus recognized him as Tom Bradley from the legal department. Tom had always been polite to Marcus during meetings. Now Tom treated him like trash. As Marcus cleaned the hallways, he could hear conversations from nearby offices. People were talking freely because they thought a janitor couldn't understand or didn't matter. What Marcus heard made his blood run cold. In the marketing department, Jennifer Walsh was talking to her team about a project deadline. "If we don't finish this on time, I'll just blame it on the IT department," she said with a laugh. "Robert Chen is such an idiot, he won't even defend himself." Her assistant, Kelly, giggled. "What about the client presentation tomorrow? We haven't prepared anything." "Don't worry," Jennifer replied. "I'll just use the same slides from last month and change the company name. These clients are too stupid to notice." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. Jennifer was planning to lie to an important client and blame other departments for her own failures. In meetings, she always acted professional and dedicated. Marcus moved to the next office where he heard Robert Chen from IT talking to his staff. "I don't care if the servers crash tonight," Robert was saying. "I'm not staying late to fix them. Let the night shift deal with it. That's what they get paid for." One of his employees asked, "But sir, if the servers go down, all the customer data could be lost." Robert laughed. "Not my problem. I have dinner plans with my wife. Besides, if something goes wrong, we'll just say it was a cyber attack or something. Companies love that excuse." Marcus felt sick. Robert was willing to risk losing important customer data just so he wouldn't miss dinner, and he was planning to lie about the cause if something went wrong. The break room was even worse. Marcus went there to empty the trash cans and heard a group of employees talking about their supervisors. But what shocked him was how they talked about the cleaning staff. "Did you see that new janitor?" asked Sarah from accounting. "He looks so pathetic. I bet he's illegal or something." Another woman laughed. "These cleaning people are so gross. I saw one of them eating lunch with dirty hands yesterday. Don't they know about hygiene?" A man from sales joined the conversation. "I don't know why we even need janitors. They're so slow and lazy. My 5-year-old daughter could clean better than them." Marcus was standing right there, emptying their trash, but they talked about him like he was deaf. He wanted to scream at them, but Mike Torres had to stay quiet and invisible. The worst part came when Marcus was cleaning the executive floor bathrooms. Through the thin walls, he could hear David Park from sales talking on the phone with a client. "Don't worry, Mr. Johnson," David was saying. "We'll have your project finished by next Friday. No problems at all." After hanging up, David immediately called his team. "Listen up, everyone. That Johnson project is impossible to finish by Friday. But I already promised the client, so you'll have to work nights and weekends. And if we're late, I'm telling the client it was your fault for not working hard enough," one of his employees protested. "But David, you said we could have 2 weeks for this project. Now you want it done in 3 days?" "I don't care what I said before," David snapped. "Figure it out or find a new job, and don't expect overtime pay. The company is trying to save money." Marcus realized that David was lying to clients about deadlines and then forcing his employees to do impossible work without proper pay. This explained why so many projects were late and why employees were quitting. As the night continued, Marcus discovered more shocking behavior. In the accounting department, he found Sarah Mitchell going through confidential employee files. She was looking at salary information for people in other departments. "I can't believe they pay the IT guys so much," Sarah said to her assistant. "They don't do anything all day. I should ask for a raise and threaten to quit if they don't give it to me." Her assistant looked worried. "Isn't it against company policy to look at other people's salary information?" Sarah laughed. "Only if someone catches us." "And who's going to report us? The janitor?" She pointed at Marcus, and both women laughed. Marcus wanted to tell them that yes, the janitor was definitely going to report them, but he had to keep cleaning and pretend he didn't understand what was happening. In the customer service department, Marcus overheard phone calls that made him understand why customers were so angry. Representatives were hanging up on difficult callers, transferring people to wrong departments on purpose, and even making fun of customers after ending calls. "This lady called 5 times today about the same problem," one representative told another. "So I told her our computer system was down and to call back tomorrow. Maybe she'll give up and leave us alone." Another representative bragged, "When customers get angry, I just put them on hold for 30 minutes. Usually they hang up and don't call back." These people were being paid to help customers, but they were doing everything possible to avoid actually helping anyone. The security situation was even worse than Marcus had imagined. He noticed that several employees were bringing in personal items and taking company supplies home. One man from the IT department was carrying out expensive computer equipment in a gym bag. When the security guard asked what was in the bag, the man said dirty gym clothes, and the guard just laughed and let him pass. Marcus also discovered that employees were sharing their building access cards with friends and family members. He saw people he didn't recognize walking around the offices late at night. Some were taking photos of computer screens and documents. The security guard was usually sleeping at his desk or watching videos on his phone. By 2 a.m., when Marcus's shift ended, he felt completely overwhelmed. In 8 hours, he had witnessed theft, fraud, customer abuse, employee harassment, and complete disregard for company policies. His managers weren't just incompetent. Many of them were actively harmful to the business. The most shocking part was how differently people behaved when they thought nobody important was watching. During the day, when Marcus walked through as CEO, everyone acted professional and respectful. At night, when they thought only a janitor could see them, their true personalities came out. Marcus drove home in his old car, still wearing his janitor uniform. He felt like he had spent the night in a completely different company. The data flow solutions he thought he knew was just an act that people put on when the boss was around. The real company was ugly, mean, and corrupt. As he sat in his driveway, Marcus realized that his company's problems were much worse than low profits and unhappy customers. The entire culture was rotten from the inside. People had no respect for each other, no loyalty to the company, and no pride in their work. But Marcus also realized something else. If he could see all this in just one night, imagine what he would discover if he kept working as Mike Torres for a few more weeks. The truth was going to be much worse than he had ever imagined. Marcus had been working as Mike Torres for 3 weeks now. Every night brought new horrors. He had seen employees steal company supplies, lie to customers, and treat each other terribly. But nothing had prepared him for what would happen on this particular Tuesday evening. Marcus arrived at work feeling exhausted. The stress of living 2 different lives was wearing him down. During the day, he had to pretend to be the CEO in meetings with his lying managers. At night, he had to clean up after the same people who were destroying his company. It was like living in a nightmare. Tonight was different because the company was having its monthly all-hands meeting. This was a big gathering where all employees came together to hear updates about the business. As CEO, Marcus usually gave a speech at these meetings. But tonight, he had asked Jennifer Walsh to run the meeting while he handled an emergency client call. Marcus put on his janitor uniform and grabbed his cleaning cart. The meeting was being held in the large conference room on the 20th floor. His job was to clean the room before and after the meeting. He would be invisible in the corner while 150 employees discussed the company's future. When Marcus arrived at the conference room, employees were already filing in. He recognized faces from his 3 weeks of night shifts. There was Sarah from accounting, who had been stealing confidential salary information. Robert from IT, who had been taking expensive equipment home. David from sales, who lied to clients every day. Jennifer from marketing, who blamed other departments for her own mistakes. Marcus started cleaning quietly in the corner. He emptied trash cans, wiped down tables, and tried to stay invisible. Employees were talking loudly as they found their seats, completely ignoring the janitor in the room. Jennifer Walsh walked to the front of the room with a big smile. "Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our monthly meeting. I know Marcus couldn't be here tonight, but he asked me to share some important updates with you all." Marcus almost laughed. He was right there in the room, but nobody knew it. Jennifer started talking about company profits and new clients. Marcus knew most of what she was saying was lies or exaggerations. She made everything sound much better than it really was. The employees seemed bored and distracted. Then Jennifer said something that made Marcus stop cleaning. "I know there have been some rumors about possible layoffs. I want to address this directly." The room became very quiet. Employees sat up and paid attention. Marcus had never mentioned layoffs to anyone. Where did this rumor come from? "The truth is," Jennifer continued, "the company is struggling because we have too many unnecessary expenses. We're spending too much money on things that don't add value to our business." Robert Chen raised his hand. "What kind of unnecessary expenses?" he asked. Jennifer smiled. "Well, for example, we spend a lot of money on cleaning staff. Do we really need so many janitors? I think we could save thousands of dollars by reducing the cleaning crew." Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. They were talking about firing people like him, people who worked hard for very little money. David Park nodded in agreement. "Jennifer's right. These janitors are so slow and inefficient. I could hire a cleaning service for half the cost." "Sarah," Mitchell joined the conversation. "Honestly, I don't think the janitors even do a good job. My office is never clean enough. Maybe we should just fire all of them and start over." Marcus continued cleaning, but his hands were shaking with anger. These people were planning to destroy the lives of hardworking people just to save a few dollars. But the worst was yet to come. Robert Chen stood up and pointed directly at Marcus. "Look at this guy, for example. He's been cleaning the same trash can for 5 minutes. How can someone be so slow at such a simple job?" The entire room turned to look at Marcus. He felt 150 pairs of eyes staring at him like he was some kind of strange animal in a zoo. Jennifer Walsh laughed. You're right, Robert. Maybe if we didn't waste money on people like this, we could afford better equipment for the departments that actually matter. David Park raised his voice so everyone could hear. I bet this guy doesn't even speak English. Look at him. He probably has no idea we're talking about him. More employees started laughing. Someone in the back shouted, "Hey, janitor, do you understand what we're saying?" Marcus wanted to scream. He wanted to tell them exactly who he was and what he thought of their cruel behavior. But Mike Torres had to stay quiet and keep working. Sarah Mitchell pulled out her phone and started taking pictures of Marcus. "This is going on social media," she announced. "Look at this pathetic janitor who doesn't know he's about to get fired." Several other employees also took out their phones and started recording videos. They were treating Marcus like entertainment, like he was there for their amusement. "Smile for the camera," someone yelled. "Maybe he'll cry when we fire him," another person shouted. The room erupted in cruel laughter. Marcus felt humiliated and angry beyond anything he had ever experienced. These people were not just unprofessional, they were genuinely evil. But Jennifer Walsh wasn't finished yet. She walked closer to Marcus and spoke loudly enough for everyone to hear. "You know what the real problem is?" she said. "People like this janitor represent everything wrong with our company. They're lazy, stupid, and worthless. They take jobs away from Americans who actually deserve them." The room cheered and applauded. Marcus felt tears forming in his eyes, but he couldn't let them see him cry. Robert Chen joined Jennifer near Marcus's cleaning cart. "I bet he's illegal," Robert said loudly. "We should call immigration and have him deported. Then we wouldn't have to pay him anything." More laughter and applause filled the room. David Park had the cruelest comment of all. "Look at his clothes, look at his face. This guy's a complete loser. He's probably too stupid to get any other job. Cleaning toilets is all he's good for." Marcus gripped his mop handle so tightly his knuckles turned white. He had never felt such pure rage in his entire life. Jennifer Walsh walked back to the front of the room, still smiling. "The point is, people, we need to make tough decisions. We can't keep carrying dead weight like this. Our real employees, the smart, talented people in this room, deserve better." The applause continued for several minutes. Marcus looked around the room and saw the faces of his employees. These were people he had hired, people he had trusted, people he had tried to help succeed. And they were all laughing at the suffering of someone they thought was beneath them. As the meeting continued, employees took turns making cruel jokes about janitors, cleaning staff, and worthless people who don't contribute anything. They talked about Marcus like he was garbage, like he wasn't even human. By the end of the meeting, Marcus felt completely broken, not because of the insults. He knew he was successful and valuable, but because he realized that his company was full of people with no compassion, no decency, and no basic human kindness. After the employees left, Marcus stood alone in the empty conference room. He looked at the mess they had left behind: food wrappers on the floor, coffee spills on tables, and trash scattered everywhere. They had made extra work for him on purpose, just to be cruel. Marcus picked up his cleaning supplies and started working. But in his mind, he was no longer Mike Torres, the janitor. He was Marcus Thompson, the CEO, and he was planning the biggest confrontation of his business career. Tomorrow morning, he would call an emergency meeting. Tomorrow morning, everyone who had laughed tonight would learn exactly who they had been mocking. Tomorrow morning, the real Marcus Thompson would return, and there would be consequences. As Marcus cleaned the conference room where he had been humiliated, he made a list in his head of every person who had participated in the cruelty. Jennifer, Walsh, Robert Chen, David Park, Sarah Mitchell, and at least 20 others. They had all crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. The final straw had been broken. It was time for justice. Marcus barely slept that night. He kept thinking about the cruel faces laughing at him, the phones recording his humiliation, and the heartless words spoken by people he had once trusted. By 5 a.m., he had made his decision. Today would be the day of reckoning. Marcus showered and put on his best business suit, a sharp black outfit that cost more than most people made in a month. He shaved off his beard, styled his hair back to normal, and looked at himself in the mirror. Mike Torres, was gone forever. Marcus Thompson, CEO and owner of Dataflow Solutions, was back. At 7 a.m., Marcus called his secretary, Linda. "Cancel all my meetings today," he said in a voice that made her nervous. "Send an emergency email to every single employee. Everyone must be in the main auditorium by 9 a.m. No exceptions." "Sir, is everything okay?" Linda asked. She had never heard Marcus sound so cold and determined. "Everything will be okay very soon," Marcus replied. "Make sure security is present. We're going to need them." Linda worked quickly to send the emergency notice. Within minutes, confused employees were checking their phones and computers. The message was simple but serious. Mandatory all-staff meeting at 9 a.m. Attendance required. No excuses. By 8:45 a.m., the large auditorium was packed with nervous employees. People whispered to each other, trying to figure out what was happening. Some worried about layoffs. Others wondered if the company was being sold. Nobody expected what was actually coming. Jennifer Walsh sat in the front row, looking confident. She thought Marcus was probably going to announce cost-cutting measures, just like she had suggested at yesterday's meeting. Robert Chen was checking his phone, barely paying attention. David Park was eating a breakfast sandwich, dropping crumbs on his shirt. Sarah Mitchell was gossiping with her friends about their weekend plans. At exactly 9 a.m., Marcus walked onto the stage. The room fell silent. Something about his expression made everyone uncomfortable. His eyes were cold and his jaw was set in a hard line. This was not the friendly CEO they were used to seeing. Marcus walked to the microphone without saying a word. He looked out at the 300 faces staring back at him. In the back of the room, he could see the janitors who had been called to attend this unusual meeting. They looked confused and worried about being away from their work. "Good morning," Marcus said in a voice that carried throughout the silent auditorium. "I want to start by introducing you to someone." Marcus clicked a remote control. The large screen behind him lit up with a photo of him in his janitor uniform, holding a mop and wearing his name tag that said Mike Torres. A few people in the ED audience gasped. Jennifer Walsh's confident smile disappeared. Robert Chen dropped his phone. David Park stopped chewing his sandwich. "For the past 3 weeks," Marcus continued, "I have been working in this building as your janitor. My name was Mike Torres, and I cleaned your offices, emptied your trash, and listened to your conversations." The auditorium was completely silent. People were staring at the screen in shock, trying to understand what they were seeing. Marcus clicked the remote again. More photos appeared, pictures of him cleaning bathrooms, mopping floors, and pushing his cart through the hallways. In some photos, employees could be seen in the background, completely ignoring him. "Some of you might be wondering why I did this," Marcus said. "The answer is simple. I wanted to see the real Dataflow Solutions, not the fake company you show me during meetings, but the real company that exists when you think nobody important is watching." Marcus could see sweat forming on Jennifer Walsh's forehead. Sarah Mitchell was turning pale. David Park had stopped eating entirely. "Let me share with you some of the things I discovered," Marcus continued. His voice was getting stronger and more angry with each word. "I watched Jennifer Walsh lie to clients about project deadlines, and then blame other departments when projects failed. I heard her plan to use old presentations and hope clients wouldn't notice." Jennifer tried to stand up, but Marcus gestured for her to sit down. "I'm not finished," he said coldly. "I watched Robert Chen refuse to fix critical server problems because he didn't want to miss dinner. I heard him plan to lie about cyber attacks to cover his own laziness." Robert was shaking now. He knew his career was over. "I watched David Park promise impossible deadlines to clients and then force his employees to work unpaid overtime to meet those fake promises." David's sandwich fell to the floor. His hands were trembling. "I watched Sarah Mitchell steal confidential salary information and plan to use it for blackmail." Sarah started crying quietly. Marcus clicked the remote again. The screen now showed a video compilation of employees ignoring him, stepping around his equipment, and treating him like he was invisible. But the worst part, Marcus continued, was not the lying, stealing, or cheating. The worst part was how you treated another human being. The screen changed to show photos from last night's meeting. There was Jennifer pointing at Marcus. David, making cruel jokes. Sarah taking pictures with her phone. Robert calling him stupid. Last night, in this very building, I watched 150 of you mock, humiliate, and dehumanize someone you thought was beneath you. You called me pathetic, worthless, and stupid. You took pictures of me for your entertainment. You laughed at the idea of destroying my livelihood. Marcus's voice was now filled with controlled rage. You forgot one very important thing. Every person deserves respect and dignity, regardless of their job title. The janitor who cleans your office is just as valuable as the CEO who signs your paychecks. Marcus clicked the remote one final time. The screen now showed a list of names, everyone who had participated in the cruel behavior from the night before. The following people are terminated immediately and will be escorted from the building by security, Marcus announced. Jennifer, Walsh, Robert Chen, David Park, Sarah Mitchell. As Marcus read each name, security guards appeared and walked toward those employees. Jennifer Walsh started crying. Robert Chen tried to argue, but security wouldn't listen. David Park begged for another chance. Sarah Mitchell fainted and had to be helped from her chair. In total, 23 people were fired that morning. Some were managers, who had abused their power. Others were regular employees who had shown cruelty to someone they thought couldn't fight back. For those of you who remain, Marcus said to the shocked faces still in the auditorium, understand this. Data Flow Solutions is going to change completely. We will treat every person with respect and dignity. We will be honest with our clients. We will work as a team instead of blaming each other. Marcus looked directly at the janitors standing in the back of the room. To our cleaning staff and all support workers, I apologize for the way you have been treated. You are valuable members of this company and you will be treated with the respect you deserve. One of the janitors, an older man named Carlos, raised his hand. Mr. Thompson, we always knew you were a good man. Thank you for standing up for us. Marcus smiled for the first time that morning. Thank you, Carlos. And thank you for teaching me what real dignity looks like. As the meeting ended and people slowly filed out, Marcus felt a weight lifting from his shoulders. The company would be smaller now, but it would be better. The cancer had been cut out, and healthy growth could begin. 6 months later, Data Flow Solutions was a completely different company. Customer satisfaction was at an all-time high. Employee morale had improved dramatically. Profits were better than ever. Most importantly, everyone from the CEO to the janitors treated each other with respect and kindness. Marcus learned that true leadership meant understanding and caring for every person in the organization. He also learned that sometimes you have to lose everything fake to find something real. Mike Torres was gone, but the lessons he taught Marcus Thompson would last forever.